Welcome back. All right, the full day of hockey is now done. Some surprising results. I've already got the power rankings all figured out. I'll say this, a lot less movement in this week's power rankings comparatively speaking with the previous. So, that being said, let's go ahead and start things off talking about the Buffalo Sabres and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, all of the discussions of Toronto's demise seem to have been blown out of proportion. Surprising, I know. It was Luukkonen versus Murray in this one. Good early flow to the game. Bunting has a shot that's saved on a rush. The Sabres pressed 7 minutes into it. Kampf had a rush chance that was held. The Leafs will get a power play, and they score on it. It's Tavares. From Marner and Riley at 12:58, the Leafs pressed for another. They had some momentum, and eventually they cash in with their second goal of the period. It's Yarncroke from Engvall and Sandin at 17:27. With 2:08 left, the Sabres get a power play. A shorthanded rush would have made it 4-on-4, but it's a goal. The net was knocked off, but they ruled that the net was knocked off by the Buffalo defender. The puck would have gone in if not for the net being knocked off. That's a goal. So that's a shorthanded marker for Giordano. Marner and Kampf with the assists at 18:23. Tuck is then denied, and the Leafs kill off the rest. So they come out of the first period with a big 3-0 lead on a Buffalo team that desperately needs a win. Second period, Sabres get a power play. That was killed off. Another power play. Thompson was denied. The Leafs clear it out, but eventually Buffalo does get on the board. It's Tuck on the power play from Cousins and Dahlin at 10:01, and that was deflected in by Tuck. Sabres go back to the power play. There was a shorthanded break for Kerfoot. That was saved. That's killed off, and then the Leafs rush. The Leafs end up getting themselves a power play. They score on theirs. Nylander scores from Tavares and Matthews at 14:52. So the Leafs power play starting to look like the Leafs power play. They're starting to get goals. We're going to the third period with them up 4-1. Yoki Haru ends up hitting the wrong net. Thankfully, Luukkonen gets the save. Not that it counts as a save for him. Cousins then had a blast that deflected out. There was a power play for the Sabres. That's killed off. And then just after the halfway mark, an insurance goal. It's Nylander from Tavares at 10:37. The Sabres would get a power play. They would score on it. It is Mittelstadt from Quinn and Olofsson at 15:07. And then with 1:10 left, the Leafs get a power play to finish out the game. They win this one 5-2. They go to 10-5-4 with the win. Buffalo, that's 8 losses in a row. They are 7-11. It might be video worthy. So I talked about Buffalo's hot start. It might be time to talk about how cold they are. The shots 11-8 Toronto in the first, 12-6 Buffalo in the second, 14-6 Buffalo in the third. They got the shots 34-23 in their favor. Power plays Buffalo 2 for 6, Toronto 2 for 3. Hits were 32-28 for Toronto. Luukkonen saves 18 out of 23. Murray continues his strong play since returning from injury. 32 saves on 34 shots. So nicely played, and we'll see how things go for Murray from here. Next up, the Chicago Blackhawks in against the Boston Bruins. This was a pretty clear one. What got me was that at the start of the game, and I'm watching the Chicago announcers saying, well, we got Swayman, that's the easier, kind of like, yeah, well, at least it's Swayman. And I'm thinking, Swayman was good his last game. So, yeah, early jump for the Bruins. They would end up getting a power play. Pasternak has a net drive that's defended, but he would get the goal on the power play from Marchand and Bergeron at 4:53. And then the Bruins press for another. Honestly, Mrazek was under siege a lot of this game. A net feed to Domi, near miss there. Then there was a near miss for Pasta on a rush. Bruins get a power play. That's killed off. Clifton had a blast that was held. Bruins press with 3 minutes left, but with 40 seconds left, the Chicago Blackhawks get a power play. So after one period, the Hawks have a power play that's rolling over into the second period. They're only down by 1 in spite of the fact they were outshot by a ratio of 5-1 in the first period. So, yeah. Second period, the Bruins did finish the kill. Tenorti has a rush chance that was blocked out. And then Bergeron would score from McAvoy and Marchand at 4:28. The Bruins press at 7 minutes. Some momentum here, but the Hawks would get a power play. They would score on it. It was Radish from Domi on the power play at 10:37. The same time there was a goal scored in this game. I did notice there were some weird times that kept coming up. Use that for, like, I don't know, whatever superstition you have. DeBrusk couldn't bury one. The Bruins press with 7.5 minutes left. Zacha has a blast that's held. The Bruins would end up getting a power play, and they would score on this one. DeBrusk from Marchand and McAvoy at 18:10, and he just tips it in close. It was a really nice tic-tac-toe play. And then at 19:18, Krejci adds one from Greer and McAvoy. ANA-STL then had a rush chance that was saved, but at the end of the second period, the score's 4-1 for the Bruins. Third period, early power play for Chicago. Marchand got hit in the face with a puck. He was okay, though. It was killed off. ANA-STL couldn't bury one in close. The Bruins press at 9 minutes. Marchand got shaken up on a high stick. There was no call on the play. I am sure that fans will be very upset to hear Marchand took a stick to the face and a puck to the face in the third period. Right. So, Pasternak scores from Foligno and Nosek at 11-12. The Bruins would press for more, and eventually they get another one. It's Hall from Grzelcyk and McAvoy at 17-51. So, McAvoy with a few helpers, and your final score is 6-1 for Boston. They go to 16-2, wearing those sharp reverse retros. Against Chicago, wearing their reverse retros, where they lose 6-1, they go to 6-8-3. I also want to mention Toronto did wear the reverse retros tonight. I like them. I understand people complain they look too much like their current jerseys. Right, yeah, their current jerseys were a throwback, so it makes sense. But, yeah, you know what? The Chicago reverse retros, I thought they looked better on TV than they did in the reveal and all the promotional stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. Shots in this one, 15-3 Chicago, Boston in the first. 15-3 Chicago. 15-3 Boston in the first. 15-6 Boston in the second, 13-9 Boston in the third. The final shots 43-18 for Boston. Power play Chicago 1 for 3, Boston 2 for 3. The hits were 23-16 for Chicago. Mrazek saves 37 out of 43. Swayman saved 17 out of 18. He wasn't busy, but he was good. All right, next up, Colorado in against Washington. Washington's got some problems. By the time Wilson and Backstrom come back, who knows? They might be completely out of it. So it's Georgiev versus Kemper in this one. So Kemper, the ex-Colorado goaltender against the current Colorado goaltender. Awkward. Mantha has a rush chance that's blocked. The Caps press at 3 minutes. The shots were 2-1 for Washington at 6 minutes. So Washington was doing a good job of shutting things down here. Johansson's denied on a net drive. The Avs get a power play. Rantanen's denied. That's killed off. Great start for Georgiev in this one. The Avs get zone time, but they need shots. The shots are 12-2 for the Capitals with 8 minutes left. But with 2:04 left, the Avs get a power play. That becomes a 5-on-3. Can't have a 5-on-3 for Colorado. They score on it. It's Makar from McKinnon and Lehkonen at 19:39. So there were 30 seconds left in the Avs power play, 5-on-4 going into the second period. The Caps did finish the kill, but 6 minutes in, the shots are 2-1 for the Avs. So now the Avs are doing a good job of neutralizing Washington. Caps get a power play. That's killed off. Protas fires one high from the slot, and then McKinnon adds one for Colorado from Manson and Newhook at 13-14. So there's Newhook on the board. Caps press with 5.5 minutes left. With 2:29 left, the Caps get a power play. Colorado killed that off. We're going to the third period. It's 2-0 Colorado. Hagelin fires one wide on a rush. Kuznetsov's denied on a 2-on-1. Dowd with a net drive. Bowls over Georgiev, who did stay in the game, but kind of a rough incident there. Mantha then had a chance it was held. The Caps pressed at 6.5 minutes. Then when the Avs got opportunities, both Newhook and Makar are denied back-to-back, but Cogliano was not. It goes in off of one of Caps' own defensemen. McDonald and Confer with the assists at 8:57. The Avs would press with 9 minutes left. Things get kind of shovey after a hold by Kemper. And then at 16:12, Lehkonen scores to make it 4-0, and that's your final score. Colorado goes to 10-5-1. Yeah, they're back. Washington drops to a frustrating 7-10-3. So they've won 7 of their first 20. Your shots in this one, 14-8 Washington in the first, 8 apiece in the second, 13-10 Colorado in the third. Final shots 32-29 for Washington. Power plays, Colorado 1 for 3. The Caps 0 for 2. The hits were 23-20, or 23-22, I should say, for Washington. Georgiev saves all 32 shots for his 9th career shutout. Kemper saves 25 out of 29 at the other end. So, yeah, I'm going to say that the Avs are playing pretty well. Yeah, not too shabby. All right, Detroit. The most unpredictable team in the league might be Detroit, but they're scoring goals, and they're fun to watch. So it's Husso versus Korpisalo in this one. The shots are 5-2 for the Wings at 6 minutes. The Blue Jackets didn't really start on time. The Wings get a power play. Kubalik fires one wide, but then Larkin would score on the power play from Perron and Sider at 9:58. Sider started putting up points. Corrales then denied as Columbus presses. Cheetakov had a rush chance that was held. Columbus presses with 5.5 minutes left, but despite all of that, after the first period, it is still 1-0 Detroit. Second period at 43 seconds, Bemstrom, who's been good since being recalled, scores from Jenner and Goudreau. The Wings pressed to answer. Veleno with a net feed. That was intercepted. The momentum for the Wings, Korpisalo's holding until Hronek on a good forecheck scores at 6:35. Kubelik's then denied from the slot. Sherratt then adds another. He scores from Raymond and Kopp at 10:45. And then at 17:02, Hronek with his second of the period, he scores from Larkin and Sider. So Sider with a couple of helpers to that point. We then had 2 minutes of 4-on-4. So we're going to the third period. Early chance for the Wings during that period. We get a power play for Detroit and a post for Kubelik. Bergeron was robbed in close, but then Kubelik gets the power play goal at 5:21 from Sider. So Sider's getting the points now. Columbus presses to answer. However, at 9:04, Bertuzzi would score his first of the season from Kopp and Raymond. And so Kopp's on the board a couple of times. Detroit wins a laugher, 6-1. They go to 9-5-4 with the win. Columbus 6-10-1 with the loss. We have some teams in the East that are falling off badly right now. So your shots in this one, 13-12 Detroit in the first, 13-10 Detroit in the second, 11-6 Detroit in the third. Final shots, 37-28 for Detroit. Power plays, the Wings 2 for 3, Columbus 0 for 2. The hits, 22-11 for Columbus. Husso saves 27 out of 28. Korpisalo saves 31 out of 37. So Husso had a very good game. After a couple shaky ones, he needed that. And for Detroit, I think this is a far more impressive win than the one over San Jose. Although both of those games wins over teams that are in the bottom row on that board, you guys are going to see later on tonight. All right, next up. Philadelphia and Montreal. So again, these are two teams that we expect to miss the playoffs. It very likely happens. But is it ever fun to watch them? So I do need to update records. All right, so that's accomplished. So it was Hart versus Allen in this one, and neither goaltender looked great early on. First, Sanheim scores from Lawton and McEwen at 39 seconds, buried on a net feed first shot, and that's the first goal of the season for Sanheim. Tippett would then score from Sanheim at 2:55. That was the fourth shot, and he wired it top corner. Not to be outdone, Montreal scores on their second shot at 4:08. That's Dvorak from Gallagher and Jackeye. So this one looks like it could be 10-8, 14-12, something like that early. That was on that. Also, the Montreal goal was on a good forecheck and buried in close by Dvorak. Caulfield then missed high as the Habs are pressing, looking for the tie. Habs get a power play. Monahan pushes Hart's pad into the net. So while the puck crossed the line, he can't push the goalie's pad in. Now they reviewed it to see whether or not the puck went in the net, and then it had to be challenged for goalie interference. I will agree with the announcers on this one. If referees are checking to see if the goal is in the net, but they can tell that there's an infraction on the play that means the goal shouldn't have counted, they should have the right to say so and say, yes, the puck was in the net, but the goaltender's pad was pushed in, because it was silly to need two reviews. And that second review lasted about 10 seconds, because they already knew. They'd already basically said, if you want to challenge it, let us know, which means you might want to watch this. So it's silliness. So we get 34 seconds of a 5-on-3 from Montreal. They score during their 5-on-3. Caulfield from Dock at 17:49. Things get pushy then after a hold by Hart, because now we're in a tie game. We get 2 seconds of 4-on-4, and then the Flyers get a power play that rolls over into the second period. The Habs finish the kill. Braun had a net feed that was blocked. The shots are 3-1 for the Flyers at 6.5 minutes. At 11:55, though, Montreal gets the lead. It's Matheson, his first game of the year this year, his first game as a Hab. He gets a goal from Suzuki and Caulfield. The Flyers then get a power play. That's killed off. And then Tippett on a face-off win. Nicely played. He just wired it at the net. And there was no, goaltenders can be fooled by that. You just got to be smart about it, and he was. So at 15:50, Tippett shows he's really on the upswing right now. 3:28 left, the Habs get a power play. That was killed off. With 1 minute and 3 seconds left, however, the Flyers get a power play, and it's a 4-minuter. So that rolls over into the third period. That's killed off. The shots are 3-1 for the Flyers at 3.5 minutes, and then they score. It's Hayes from Sealer and McEwen at 8:17, and then the Flyers press for another. They're up by 1. Near miss for Caulfield. The Habs press, and then we get some punching, because why not celebrate the pressure with some punching? 1:10 left, the Habs call a timeout. Caulfield fires one wide, clearly warming up, because then he scored. 19:58 from Suzuki and Monahan. So that ties the game up late. We go to overtime. Habs controlled early. The fans called one. The ref didn't. Flyers control. The crowd boos. And honestly, there was a lot of backing up and backing off in this overtime. Caulfield had a rush chance that was held. That was the only shot of the overtime. Monahan tipped one wide, and so we go to a shootout. In the shootout, Nick Suzuki gets the winner. Your final score is 5-4 for Montreal in the shootout. They go to 9-8-1 with the win. Philadelphia drops to 7-7-4 with the shootout loss. Again, they've won 3 out of their last 12. Shots 11-9 Montreal in the first, 14-8 Montreal in the second, 12-6 Philly in the third. In the overtime, Montreal gets the only shot. Power plays, or the shots altogether are 32-29 for Montreal. Now, power plays, Philadelphia 0 for 4, Montreal 1 for 3. The hits 31-16 in favor of Philadelphia. Hart saves 28 out of 32. Allen saves 25 out of 29. And now I need to change boards. Okay, Pittsburgh and Winnipeg, and this was the last of the 4 o'clock starts. These were all 5 o'clock starts, and that's, of course, Pacific time, and so it got kind of crazy. It did my best. So it was Jarry versus Hellebuck in this one. There was a press by the Jets at 2 minutes. The shots are 2 apiece, though, at 3.5 minutes. This was a game of momentum swings. After the slow start, the Penguins improve. They would press at 8.5 minutes. Morrissey was then denied on a short press by the Jets. The Pens cleared out. Lowry nearly opens the scoring. Lowry was all around the net tonight. Raquel has a net drive that's saved. Malkin's then denied on a rush. The Jets would press in the final minute. So after 1 period, it is scoreless. Second period, Penguins get a power play. That was killed off. Shots are 5-1 for Pittsburgh at 5.5 minutes. Then there's some zone time for the Jets. They didn't get shots during that period, though. A near miss for Lowry. The Jets get a power play. Lowry was denied. Really clearly wanted one. The Jets go back to the power play. There was a near miss for Connor and close. Perfetti's denied. The Penguins clear it out. And there's a press by the Penguins in the final minute. So third period, scoreless game until Zucker on a rush scores at top corner from Malkin and Petrie at 53 seconds. The Penguins then get a power play. Much needed kill by the Jets. They do kill that off. Press then by Pittsburgh at 6.5 minutes. The shots are 6-5 for the Jets with 8.5 minutes left, but they need a goal. Carter has a rush. Dylan breaks that up. But then at 18:26, it is Rust scoring from Crosby. So that makes it 2-0. The Jets call a timeout. They would pull the goaltender with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. And the Jets had opportunities in that final minute. Like Jarry earned the shutout tonight. Gensel would hit the empty net at 19:56 from Rust and Crosby to make the final score 3-0. The Penguins move back above NHL 500 for the first time in a bit here. They're 8-7-3. The Winnipeg Jets drop to 10-5-1 with the loss. Your shots in this one, 13-11 Winnipeg in the first. Both teams had 10 shots in the second, 11-9 Pittsburgh in the third. Final shots are 32 apiece. Both teams 0 for 2 on the power play. The hits were almost even too. 26-22 for Winnipeg. The difference is Jarry saved all 32 shots for his 12th career shutout. Hellebuck saved 29 out of 31. He was very good. He was out-dueled by Jarry at the other end. All right, next up. Anaheim in against St. Louis. This was a game that, to be honest, I knew I didn't have to worry about. I knew St. Louis wasn't blowing this one. Gibson versus Binnington, and with the 6th straight win tonight, St. Louis could pull back above 500. This is the streakiest team in the history of hockey. So the Ducks, they have a delay game call at 12 seconds. It's good to get the penalty kills out of the way early, I guess. That's killed off. Gibson was sharp early. I don't know how well that comment aged on the board. Blues press at 3 minutes. The shots are 6-1 for the Blues at 4 minutes. Thomas has a rush chance that's saved, but then Achari would score from Falk and Shen at 12:44. Buchnevich then adds one from Thomas and Kyrou at 16:07. Rosen then had a shot that deflects wide. McTavish fired one high as the Ducks push. In the final minute, the Ducks did get some pressure. But going into the second period, it's 2-0 for St. Louis. And early on, St. Louis adds another. It's Buchnevich from Thomas and Kyrou at 1:02. Ducks try to answer. That must have made the Blues angry because then Shen scores again. Or Shen scores from Buchnevich, who gets on the board again at 4:52. The Ducks will get a power play. They score on it. It's Fowler from Henrique at 6:43. It's 4-1. Maybe there's hope. Nope. The Blues get a power play. And 2 minutes and a second after the Ducks get on the board, it is Krug on the power play from Kyrou and Buchnevich at 8:44. So Buchnevich with a 4-point night. That's not bad, right? It's pretty good. Ducks didn't get a power play. That was killed off. The Ducks press again in the final minute. So they were good in the last minute of each period. So we go to the third period. Stolars is in. I think it was a mercy pull. I don't think it was a reflection on Gibson's play. Lundestrom has a tip that's saved. The Ducks get a power play. It's killed off. Fowler misses one wide. The Ducks go back to the power play. They score on this one. It's Henrique from Fowler and McTavish at 8:41. However, the Blues would add another insurance marker, if you want to call it that. They were already up by 3. So Thomas scores from Kyrou and Buchnevich at 15:28. So that's 5 points for Buchnevich. I think he had a good game. I think so. Things get punchy with 3:45 left, and then we had a fight later on, too, between Carrick and Tucker. So Tucker got called up a couple games ago. Yeah, he's known for this, and we'll probably see him on the board again with fighting. 6-2 is your final for St. Louis. They go to 9-8 with the win. Anaheim 5-12-1 with the loss. They're still last on the power rankings board. Spoiler alert. Shots are 16-5 St. Louis in the first, 14-13 Anaheim in the second. They did outshoot St. Louis 13-5 in the third. Final shots 34-32 for St. Louis. Power plays Anaheim 2 for 4. St. Louis 1 for 4. The hits 19-14 St. Louis. Gibson saves 24 out of 29. Stolars saves 4 out of 5. And Binnington saved 30 out of 32. Continues to bring his stats up after a rough 8-game period there for him. So yeah, do I do a video on St. Louis's winning streak? Because right? They're ready to go, what, 12, 13 game winning streak? I don't know. It's ridiculous. All right. Speaking of ridiculous, we have Carolina and Minnesota. And I'm going to say straight out, if you've been having trouble sleeping over the last little while, the second and third period of this game, I have to recommend. There really wasn't a lot going on. Now, I think this is the way both teams play. It's a situation where you've got a Hurricanes and Wild team that both play to keep the other team off the scoreboard. So it's Kochetkov versus Gustafsson, which also might have been part of it. Both of them with young goaltenders in the net wanting to protect their goalies. Good early back and forth, but the shots on net are 4-0 for the Canes at 6.5 minutes. There's a too many men on the ice call. The Canes get a power play. That's killed off. The shots with 8.5 minutes left are now 7-0 in favor of Carolina. They would get on the board at 13:47. It is Aho from Natchez and Nason. And for the longest time, I thought that was going to be the only goal in the game. That'd be it. There was a post for Aho on the next shift. The Wild would press with 1.5 left, but it was not a great period for the Wild. So we go to the second period. Canes had the early edge. The shots are 3-0 in their favor at 6 minutes. Through the first half of the game, the Wild had 9 shots. So rough overall game for them. They would get a power play. That's killed off. And in the second half, there wasn't really a whole lot hitting the nets. Third period, early press by the Canes. We get 2 minutes of 4-on-4. After that's done, we then get a power play for Carolina. That was killed off. No shots that I saw. Kaprizov has a rush that's defended. The Wild press at 7.5 minutes. The fans call one. The referee does not. The shots are only 1 apiece at 8 minutes. So, again, the Wild get a power play. That's killed off. Kaprizov's denied. Steele couldn't bury the rebound. Canes press with 4 minutes left. But just when I'm thinking this one's going to be a 1-0 shutout for Kochetkov, Steele scores to put Minnesota on the board from Spurgeon and Kaprizov at 17:23. The Canes then would try to answer, but we're going to overtime. In the overtime, Kaprizov's denied on a rush, and Goligoski was not. On a rush as well. Nice pass. Steele and Goudreau with the assists at 1:12. Goligoski, who had already had a ceremony before the game in honor of his 1,000th game. This was actually his 1,002nd game. And your final score is 2-1 in overtime for Minnesota. They go to 8-2 with the win. With the loss in overtime, Carolina's 10-5-3. The shots, 11-5 Carolina in the first, 8-7 Minnesota in the second, 6-3 Minnesota in the third, 2-0 in the overtime for Minnesota. Both teams had 21 shots. Power plays, Carolina 0 for 2, Minnesota 0 for 1. The hits, 23-21 Minnesota. Kochetkov, 19 saves on 21 shots. Gustafsson, 20 saves on 21 shots. Nice bounce back after that last game that Gustafsson played. But like I said, it's kind of how the teams in front of them were playing. Not saying the goalies played badly. They didn't. But the teams were definitely doing their best to make sure that everything was kept to the outside and that the goalie could see every shot coming at the net, which wasn't very many. All right, next up, the Islanders and the Dallas Stars. So I really thought the Islanders were going to take this. I really did. I was pretty convinced in the second period. It was Varlamov versus Ottinger. Dallas wearing the Rave jerseys, so I figured I'll wear the Rave jersey for the review. Pulock has a shot that's held, and the shots are 4-0 for the Isles at 2.5 minutes. Again, this is a case of the home team not really showing up on time. Stars get a power play. That's killed off. Varlamov was keeping it 0-0 at that point because it really was quite the game now that Dallas was having. Once they had that power play, they started to open things up. The momentum was on their side. The Islanders then pressed with 8 minutes left. The Stars get a power play with 58 seconds left. So that rolls over into the second period. The Islanders finish the kill, and to celebrate, they get a goal. It's Barzal. Yes, he finally got one. He batted it into the net from Romanov and Wallstrom in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So we can all breathe a sigh of relief. He finally got his first goal of the season. The Islanders then get a power play. That's killed off. And to celebrate killing that off, Dallas gets a goal. It's Faksa, who's got his second of the season from Sagan and Benn at 6:57. Jamie Benn looks like he did 10 years ago right now. It's insane. I'm quite optimistic about Dallas. If that can continue, this team could very well win the division, which is bonkers. Pajot's then denied as the Islanders press. And the Islanders were getting a lot of power plays. And this is something I've talked about too. So they had a power play before Pajot's denied. They go back to the power play. And the Stars, they don't let them set up. But towards the end of the power play, it is a power play goal for Barzal from Nelson and Lee at 14-19 on a rush. So it's 2-1 Islanders. But the fact that Dallas is taking so many penalties, it's kind of a feature when they get wins. Marchment would answer from Ben at 14:59, so it takes 40 seconds to get that back on a turnover. The Islanders go back to the power play. This time, the Stars with a very aggressive penalty kill. They kill that off. So it's 2-2 after 2, third period. Early press by the Stars. The Islanders then get their 5th power play in a row. The more Barzal magic, almost gets the hat trick, doesn't. The Islanders press after it ends. Robertson then had a rush chance that was saved. And then with a backhand top shelf, filthy goal, it's Ben. He scores from Marchment and Sagan at 8:17. Ben then fired one high in a rush. He was looking for another. But then Robertson would score from Pavelski at 16:27. So all of a sudden, if you're a Dallas fan at this point, you can kind of breathe a sigh of relief a little bit because the scare at home is kind of going away. And it was a spinorama goal on a face-off win by Pavelski. Like, it was just ridiculous goal by Robertson. They pull the goaltender, and then 200 feet from the net at his own goal line, Hakanpää, right in the middle of the net too. He scores from Ottinger and Pavelski at 19:39. So that makes your final score 5-2 for Dallas. They go to 11-5-2 with the win. The Islanders drop to 11-8 with the loss. The shots in this one, 13-9 Dallas in the first, 13-10 Dallas in the second, 10-9 Islanders in the third. Final shots, 35-29 for Dallas. Power plays, the Islanders 1 for 5, Dallas 0 for 2. The hits, 17-16 for the Islanders. Varlamov saves 30 out of 34. Ottinger saved 27 out of 29. Otter's back. And it's fun to see Otter playing like we know he can. So, there you go. All right, next up. Last one on this board, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay Lightning in against the Nashville Predators. This one kind of had a playoff feel to it. It got kind of ugly here. It's almost as if these teams were in the same division a couple seasons ago, and they haven't really forgotten. So it's Vasilevsky versus Saros. There was an early power play for the Preds. Get used to hearing the words power play a lot in this part. Forsberg would score on the power play from Ekholm and Parsonen at 150. Where's Parsonen come from? He's all of a sudden all over the board. Preds go back to the power play. That's killed off. The Bolts press at 6 minutes. The shots are 6-4 for Tampa at 8 minutes. Bolts press more at the half. There was a press then by Nashville with 4.5 minutes left. They go back to the power play, do Nashville, and that's killed off. But the shots are really in favor of Tampa after the first period. So second period, the Bolts would get a power play. They would score on it to tie the game. It's Kucherov from point and Sergachev at 4:25. The shots are 4-3 in favor of the Bolts 8 minutes into it. Paul seemed to get away with the delay of game. The way that he reacted when the puck went out was like, and nothing. They discussed it, nothing. My guess is, did you see it? Did you see whether or not deflect? Well, if nobody saw it, then all right, no penalty. I still say that if a player acts guilty, you throw him in the box. Throw him in the box. 2 minutes for acting guilty. I don't know what you did. You know what you did. If you're your parent, you know what I'm talking about, right? So anyways, Perry was denied. There was 2 minutes of 4-on-4 shortly thereafter. The game gets kind of punchy. The Bolts come out with a power play on that. Stamkos has a blast that's held. That's killed off. The Preds then get a power play. That's killed off. Fans wanted to call it the horn, and players did too because they start all the pushy stuff at the horn too. So third period, we're in a tie game, and here we go. Early jump for Nashville. Nemesnikov had a net feed that was blocked, and then Niederreiter at 5:04 puts Nashville in the lead 2-1. Tampa Bay tries to answer. They get a power play. There was a shorthanded rush by Sissons at the start of it, so that's not a great start to that power play. It's killed off. Tampa Bay presses after. The Preds blocking, hanging on. And hanging on is, anytime I see that on the board that I'm writing that, I'm like, because when they're hanging on, it means they're not getting the puck out a lot. They're just doing the, dump it down the ice and get your line change in, and just, it leads to bad things at times. So 5:44 left, Nashville gets a power play. Shorthanded rush by Paul, that ends up being killed off. And then Killorn would score to tie it from Cole and Kucherov at 16:39. And then with 2:56 left, the Bolts get another power play, which Nashville fans were not happy about. Nashville did kill it. We do go to overtime. In overtime, Preds controlled early. Hedman had a blast that was saved. Kucherov's denied, and then the Preds pushed the other way. Stamkos was then robbed, and the Bolts come out of it with a timeout. Tampa Bay comes out of it with a power play. Getting ahead of myself. And then they call the timeout before going on the power play. And whatever they discussed, it works. Stamkos scores from Kucherov and Point on the power play at 2:36, and Stamkos just blasted it. So Stamkos has got, that's full 490 for him, right? Yeah, he's going to get to 500. Your final score is 3-2 in overtime for Tampa. They go to 11-6-1 with the win. Nashville 8-8-2 with the loss. I mean, it's not a shameful loss against Tampa, right? But Nashville really wanted the 2 points. The shots in this one, 18-12 Tampa in the first, 12-8 Tampa in the second, 11-6 Nashville in the third. In the overtime, the shots are 3-1 for Tampa, including the shot that counts. Final shots, 39-32 for Tampa. Power plays, Tampa Bay 2 for 5, Nashville 1 for 5. The hits, 35-20 in favor of Nashville. Vasilevsky saves 30 out of 32, and Saros saves 36 out of 39. So, pretty entertaining game, and now I need to change boards. Remember when I had to do the 4 boards? I don't have to do 4 boards anymore. I'm really grateful for the 5-game boards. All right, I mumbled that to myself too when I was doing all these tonight. So, last board, here we go. That is a brand new magnet for LA. Thanks for asking. All right, so Peterson versus Jones in the LA-Seattle matchup, and Seattle Kraken opened the scoring. At 4:42, it's McCann from Eberle and Schultz. Peterson just kicked that one right out to McCann. So it was a kick save that went the wrong way. Kings pressed at 7 minutes. The shots were 4-3 for the Kraken at 9 minutes. The Kings get some pressure. They're kept to the outside, and there really wasn't a lot else to say. Like, I kept going back to the game and thinking, all right, well, nothing really there. So, but it's 1-0 Seattle after 1. Second period, early press by Seattle. Kings then get some pressure of their own at 3 minutes. Arvidsson's denied. It's all Kings at this point. Beniers then had a rush chance. He was denied, but the Kraken go to the power play. We then end up with 1:38 of 4-on-4 because Kopitar drew a power play. All of that gets killed off. The shots are 5-4 for the Kings at the half. Burakovsky's denied on a turnover chance. The Kraken press with 7 minutes left. There was a power play then for Seattle. Sprong fires one high. The Kings clear it out. That's killed off. Moore had a rush chance. That was defended. There's a press by Seattle with 2 minutes left. A post for Edler as the Kings press back. Danault had a wraparound that was saved, and then he buries the next one. He scores to tie it from Arvidsson at 18:52. So we're going to the third period. Early power play for the Kraken. That leads to a shorthanded goal. Moore, who had 5 shorthanded goals last year, this is his first this year. He scores from Danault and Roy, at 35 seconds. See, you've got... And I know Raw didn't play tonight. That's the worst part. That's why it's unforgivable. Roy played, Raw didn't. Right next to each other, LA and Vegas. So yeah, Roy gets the assist on that one. That was a breakaway goal for Moore. It was a nice goal. But on that power play, 18 seconds later, Sprong scores. So a nice bounce back by Seattle to tie it from Schultz and Bjorkstrand. Then there was a post for McCann as they press. Soucy's denied in close. Burakovsky nearly fools Peterson with puck that goes off of his glove and just past the net. Moverari then had a shot that was saved. Seattle rushes the other way, but we are going to overtime. In the whole second half of the third period, I knew this was going overtime. Kings control early. They get a shot out of it. Burakovsky then had a chance to deflect it out. But then on a 2-on-1, Seattle ends it. It's Eberle from Schultz at 2:23. Seattle wins this one 3-2 in overtime. They go to 10-5-3. Remarkable start to the season. 18 games. Is it really a start anymore? LA drops to 11-8-2. So they get 1 point in Vancouver and Seattle combined. Not really what they were looking for. But they played well enough in both games. Like last night in Vancouver, it really was the fact that the goaltending I felt was the difference. But anyways, Seattle outshoots them in the first 8-6. LA outshot Seattle 13-9 in the second. In the third, Seattle outshoots LA 10-9. Both teams had one shot in overtime. Seattle the one that matters. Final shots 29-28 for the Kings. The Kings go 0 for 1 on the power play. Seattle 1 for 3 on their power plays. Hits 28-25 for LA. Peterson saved 25 out of 28. It's a shame about the overtime goal because he was having a good game till then. Jones 27 saves on 29 shots. So Jones continues to put up good numbers. And yet before the game, I heard the LA announcers like, well, they can move Jones later. I'm like, why do people keep talking about moving Jones? When Drieger and Grubauer are healthy, if they trade Jones, I think Seattle fans will be choked. He's got a .912 save percentage coming into tonight, and it got better. Why would you do that? All right. Anyways, next up, Vegas in against the Edmonton Oilers. So some Vegas magic, not quite enough though in this one tonight. It was Hill versus Skinner at 156. Fogle gets on the board. He scores from Nugent Hopkins and Murray. Vegas presses to answer. There's a power play for Vegas. That's killed off. 2 shots managed on that. Vegas goes back to the power play. That was killed as well. And then it's the Oilers' turn on the power play. And guess what? Yep, killed off. Hey, you got ahead of me. Pressed by the Oilers, kept to the outside. Shore was denied a couple of times. More Oilers pressure with 4.5 minutes left. But it's 16-22 on a good forecheck and deflected in off of Kolesar. Kolesar with the goal from Theodore and Howden. So I mean, it's not a slap shot goal by Kolesar. Goes in off of him, but it's still a goal. The Oilers then press with 1.5 minutes left, but it's tied at 1 after 1. Second period. Oilers had the early jump. However, Stone gets a penalty shot, and he scores on it at 4:09. And it was mentioned, too, by, I think it was Louis DeBrusk doing the color on this one, that it looked like Logan Thompson might have given him a hint on what to do. He wired at 5-hole, so he might have given him a heads up on how to play against Skinner because they both played in the AHL. So, I mean, that's possible. Vegas gets a power play. Marchessault's denied. The Oilers clear it out. Kessel then fired one high as the power play came to an end. Vegas with some momentum, but with the momentum, it went away. Draisaitl scores from Nugent Hopkins and Nurse at 10:29, and that was when Vegas, it looked like, might start to build on that lead. So big goal there for Edmonton for Draisaitl. The Oilers get a power play. That's killed off. Theodore has a screenshot that's held with 58.8 seconds left. The Oilers get a power play. There was a shorthanded rush by Smith. He passed it instead of shooting it. Might have rather have shot it. Carlson's chance is held. So we go over into the third period where during that same power play at 38 seconds, it's Hyman. Scores from McDavid and Nugent Hopkins. Great pass by McDavid, and Hyman wires it. Vegas then presses at 4 minutes because now they're behind. McDavid's denied on a break. The shots are 6-5 for Vegas with 9 minutes left. And at 11:33, it is Stone with the second goal of the game from Theodore and Eichel. So that ties it up. Howden then had a near miss on a turnover. Vegas presses with 3 minutes left. Stevenson, he had a turnover opportunity. That was saved. So a little bit of sloppy play there from the Oilers in the third, and they're bailed out by Skinner. In the overtime, Vegas controls early. Draisaitl has a rush chance. That sets up a press. And then McDavid decides, I guess I'll just end it then. He gets a beast mode goal from Nurse and Draisaitl at 1:17. So the Oilers win a big game in overtime. They needed this. 4-3 in overtime. They go to 10-8 with the win. For Vegas, they're 14-4-1 with the overtime loss. The shots in this one, 10-9 Edmonton in the first, 13-7 Vegas in the second, 12-5 Vegas in the third. Edmonton had the only shot of the overtime. That's your game winner. Final shots, 34-23 for Vegas. Power plays, the Golden Knights with 0 for 3. Edmonton 1 for 3. The hits, 31-20 for Edmonton. Hill, 19 saves on 23 shots. Skinner, 31 saves on 34 shots, and he gets the victory. So Skinner, it's his job. It's his job. It's his job for a while now, I think, because he's winning some big games. We'll see if Campbell goes back in on, I think it's Monday they play again, right? All right, last game of the night, Rangers and San Jose, and I was pretty convinced. I was pretty convinced this one was going to be scoreless, go to a shootout, because the way this was going. Both goaltenders were fantastic in this game. Shesterkin versus Reimer, early jump for the Sharks. The Rangers, though, they get a power play. That was killed off. Kakko's denied as they're pressuring, and Reimer's the one keeping it at a scoreless draw at that point. I think the Rangers were up 8-4 in shots then. Yeah, it's right here. 8-4 in shots for the Rangers at 8.5 minutes. Part of the reason I write all this stuff on the board, too, is because then it's in my brain, then it gets stuck there. It's part of the reason when I'm doing previews, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's writing his name a lot, so I'll write up the names of the guys for the previews that I remember writing on the board a lot the last few games. So Goudreau had an appreciation video in his return to San Jose. It's his first game since they traded him in front of, full crowd and everything. Cunnin then fires one wide on a rush. Kakko's snake bit on back-to-back opportunities. He's just snake bit in general this year. The Sharks press in the final minute. Things get kind of punchy after Carpenter boards Sturm. And I'll admit, I was mildly surprised they didn't at least look at it to see if it should have been 5 instead of 2, but it's a 2-minute power play with 17.8 seconds left. Second period, the Rangers finish the kill. The shots are 3-1 for the Sharks at 2.5 minutes. The Rangers get a power play. There were posts for both Fox and Panarin. Panarin technically at the crossbar. It's still a post. The Sharks leading in shots 8-5 at the half because posts don't count as shots either. Both goalies excellent, and really it stayed that way. Carlson's denied from the slot. Rangers press with 5.5 minutes left. They would get a power play. That's killed off. And then there's a press by the Sharks in the final minute. But after 2 periods, it's still scoreless. Third period, early press by the Rangers. LeBanc fires one high on a fast break. The shots are 7-0 for the Rangers at 7 minutes. So San Jose being outworked badly in their own building at this point. Neither team was giving much room, though. There wasn't like a lot of shots in the middle as we were around the midway mark of the period. Vlasic has a net feed. That's held on to. Hurdle to Meyer. Near miss towards the net there. Zibanejad then had a shot that was held after a turnover. Schneider had a rush chance that was saved. But then Gauthier. It's a face-off win. It goes around the point. Point shot, and it's tipped in by Gauthier from Trouba and Miller at 13:57. VC was then denied as the Rangers pressed looking for more. Goalie pull with 2:10 left. Reimer had to go back in because there was a face-off in the neutral zone. And then they tried to pull him out, but I was like, what are you doing? So it's kind of a botched setup because the Rangers get the puck and they get an empty netter. It's Fox from Zibanejad and VC at 18:53. So they pull the goalie again, and then San Jose scores to get on the board, which makes that empty net goal your game winner. Couture from Hurdle and Meyer at 19:44. And yeah, the empty net goal is your game winner. The Rangers win 2-1. They go to 9-6-4 with the win. San Jose drops to 6-11-3 with the loss. The shots in this one, 15-8 Rangers in the first, 12-11 Rangers in the second, 16-4 Rangers in the third. Final shots, 43-23 for the Rangers. Power plays, the Rangers 0 for 3, San Jose 0 for 1. Hits, 32-18 for the Rangers. Shesterkin saves 21 out of 22. Reimer saves 41 out of 42. And overall, the goaltending in this game was great. And it was a nice way to end out the night. I don't mind when they don't, take an extra half an hour to decide the game. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.